Welcome to the LegalTube podcast, presented by LawyerLocate.ca. Join us as we explore the latest trends, strategies, and tools for promoting your legal practice in the digital age. Hosted by Mark Robbins, CEO of LawyerLocate.ca, LegalTube, and Digital MSpace, where we're all about legal marketing online for Canadian lawyers. Let's dive in.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. It's so good to have you here today. We're so happy and so thrilled to have as our guest today, Gini Dietrich of Spin Sucks and formerly of Arment Dietrich, which I'll get some clarification on as we go forward. Gini is in Chicago, I believe, coming to us from Chicago today. Gini, welcome to the show. It's so good to see you.
It's so glad to be here. It's so good to see you.
It's been a while.
It has been.
I was going to say, it goes back to 2012, I think, was when we first met at a function called Social Mix 2012. I think you were a speaker with people like Gary V and Danny Brown. And I think was Samantha Collier there too, I think. I seem to recall. Yeah, it was quite an eclectic group. And that was way early days for Gary V, that's for sure.
Yeah, it was. That's funny. I remember sitting in the front row listening to him. That's funny. It was way early days for him. You're right. Yeah.
He hasn't changed much.
No, he is not. He still likes to use the F word every other word.
I know, eh? It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Oh, my goodness. So what's new and exciting with Gini these days? There's been a lot of changes since 2012.
Yeah, just a couple of changes. You know, we've had a crazy election here in the US and a crazy president. We had a global pandemic, you know, just a couple of things that have happened. I have a kid now who's almost 11. You know, things like that.
And how are you liking motherhood?
It's the best. It's my favorite thing ever. Yeah, it's the best.
Yeah, I've got the 44-year-old and the 17 soon to be 18-year-old.
Yep.
So it's been a great trip, a great ride for sure.
I'm sure it has.
So with what you're doing with Spin Sucks, which is not a new business, you've had Spin Sucks for several years now, right? And did you morph out of Arment Dietrich into Spin Sucks, or is Arment Dietrich still a thing?
No, it still exists. So it's more what I would say the agency side of things, and then Spin Sucks is professional development. So on the agency, we do the work for clients, and on the Spin Sucks side, we teach communicators how to evolve their careers, what things they should be thinking about, those kinds of things from a professional development standpoint.
So you get into stuff like, you know, because I know from listening to you speak in the past and following you, because I'm subscribed to Spin Sucks, obviously. Not that I obviously practice it well enough, but anyway, let's talk a little bit about thought leadership and how to build your thought leadership, because I think that's something that would touch on the legal marketing in Canada, you know, just as I'm sure you're very familiar, but for our audience, you know, a lot of lawyers in Canada have been very reluctant to really step out. It's either one extreme to the other. You have lawyers, and they're not necessarily an age demographic that makes the distinction, but some lawyers, even with many years of experience, get it and get the internet. They get that this is where I'm gonna find clients. And then there's other lawyers that are still, well, I only want personal referral. That's the only place I want to be. And you know, you're not able to really make that work successfully today. Yeah, I know I messed up in the little pop-up. I keep trying to turn that thing off, and I think I get it off, but it keeps coming up.
It actually was timed perfectly. That was awesome. Yeah, you know, it's funny because I would say two things. Number one is that for those of us in professional services, which I am as well, you know, from an agency perspective, it's hard. It's hard because you do like the personal referrals, and you do like the word of mouth, and that's how most of us have grown our businesses, lawyers included. And shifting that mindset from, gosh, I don't want to be the one out there getting the attention. I want to be, you know, serving my clients and doing the best for them. It's a tough mindset shift to make. But if you think about it from the perspective of, there are people out there who can use the knowledge that you have And if you demonstrate your expertise, they're going to want to work with you. And that's not just clients. It could be competitors too, or, frenemies who your competitors who are also friends who say, this isn't the right client for us, but you're top of mind. So let me send them over to you. So there's a lot of sort of that word of mouth and referral that still happens. It just happens at scale because you're out there and you're demonstrating your expertise and your experience.
Right. I mean, I know from our experience, because Lawyer Locate, we just celebrated 24 years. So Natalie Waddell, the
Wow.
founder and president, she created that 24 years ago. I can remember the first article was written by Law Times, a local legal publication in Toronto, and said that went through what she was trying to do. And she finally came in the year and said, well, we're kind of like a dating service for lawyers and clients because we match make the lawyers. And that, was a very, but at that time, this was just after the Law Society of Upper Canada allowed lawyers to advertise outside of the Yellow Pages. So it was
Oh,
a
interesting.
real, like we had a
Yeah.
lot of pushback from lawyers, and it's taken a long time. And we still get it every once in a while. And then, with the other companies that we have with Digital M Space, which does, website design development and marketing. And then we have LegalTube, which we're on right now.
Mhm.
Kind of self-explanatory. We do a lot of streaming because that seems to be where things are going. I'm going to circle this all the way back around to something that really got my attention when I was reviewing where you're at today. What is peso aside from a Mexican currency?
I,
I
I could
know.
do
I
that.
got
It
to
won't
keep
work
my
for
hands
me.
down. I know. I got to keep my hands down.
um, Peso is a process that we started using internally at my agency. Gosh, probably about 15 years ago. Because what we did at the time was just media relations. And so when you do, and this will be a nice analogy for attorneys as well, but when you do certain work, you have peaks and valleys. So when you do media relations alone, there's these peaks because you have all of these stories that are published about a campaign or a new product or a new service or, God forbid, a crisis or something like that, right? And then you have valleys where it sort of is quiet and you're doing the work for the next. And so the same thing with attorneys, you have peaks where you're doing the work and then sort of the valleys where you're preparing or getting ready for the next. And so we were looking at how do we sort of even things out so that there weren't peaks and valleys, but that you had consistency. And so we looked at it and we said, okay, if inbound marketing is becoming a thing, blogging is becoming a thing, social media is becoming a thing, how can we incorporate all of that into the work that we do? And so we created the peso model, which is paid media, earned media, shared media, and owned media. And at the time, it truly was social media, Google ads, blogging, and media relations. Those were sort of the four things. Now, of course,
Right.
it's completely exploded and evolved since then. But when I wrote about it in Spin Sucks the book, that's when it became sort of an industry-wide framework that almost every communicator uses in their work today.
So, you touch on something that I'm always interested in other people's take that are in the industry and in marketing and paid media, because I vacillate left and right. We were a Google partner years ago. Natalie Waddell was, and we recommended with clients, and years before that we said no. We said organic SEO is the way. It's more painful, it's more time consuming, but it's longer lasting,
Sure.
and it's not the ebbs and flows. And then of course Google changes algorithms and makes life more
Right.
difficult and challenging
Right.
for SEO
Everyone,
experts.
yeah.
But today I'm still of the mind that I have a big question mark beside paid ads, particularly in Google's world. What are your thoughts?
So two things. One, I used to agree with that completely. And I used to think that church and state should be separate, but the world has changed so much that you kind of can't get away with not doing paid media. If you're using social media, you have to advertise on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, Twitter, X as well. Google ads work. Unfortunately, they're expensive, but they work. And what we're finding, especially here in the States, we had a big, huge January where hundreds, if not thousands of journalists were laid off, and media continues to consolidate. So earning media is really challenging. And
Right.
most of the media outlets now are requiring payment. They're saying, listen, we can't stay alive and work with you from the perspective of keeping this separate. Now, if you want a story, if you want a link, if you want a link that Google will follow, all of those things, then you're going to have to pay for it. So we're seeing that shift toward the pay for play model, which I don't believe in. I don't think it's as credible or as trustworthy, but that's where we're headed.
Well, being Canadian and having gone through the experience recently with our government deciding that they were not going to accept and tolerate any more of the reselling of Canadian news content, and put the wall up and said, you're going to pay.
Yeah.
So now Meta won't allow you to post any Canadian media. They take it down immediately. It's, it's aggravating. I've told people that get upset about it. I said, look, just go to cbc.ca, get your news. Go to ctv.ca, get your news. It doesn't have to be in your stream on Facebook or any of your social media. But again, I still do struggle with the idea of paid. But you're right about and you said media. I'm glad you didn't use the word journalism, because I don't think there's been legitimate journalism in North America for probably well over 10 years, if not more. And I think your former and hopefully not going to be repeated president really crystallized that I think I remember him quoted once. Well, two quotes that stuck in my mind when he was running. One was he had let it slip that he had no intention of, he didn't want to be president, but it was great free advertising. And then the other one that got me, well, there's three. The other one that got me was that he had been quoted saying, keep telling the lie till it becomes the truth. Which, because I'm a bit older and a bit of a history buff, there was another guy back in the 40s that had the same philosophy, and his name was Hitler. Yeah. Said, keep telling the lie and it will become the truth. And, and lastly was when he finally was elected, and I think he did what was his first 30 days, and his biggest complaint was it was too much work. Right. It's like you ran for president. What did you think it was going to be? A weekend job?
Right. You could golf all day, every day still. Like,
well, I'm sure that's what he thought it was going to be.
Sure he did.
But so the paid versus so you had the paid and earned. So earned interests me. How do we earn?
Okay, so there are a few things. One is to have relationships with journalists and, talk about the great things that you're doing and hope that they will write a story about you or feature you. Trade magazines are great for that. Places where your clients, what they read, your prospective clients, what they read are great places for that. There are a couple of other places. I'm gonna caveat one, but there are a couple of other places that you can, where things have evolved, that you can spend some time. One is with contributed content. So we were talking about thought leadership. How do you write something, an op-ed, an article, something like that for media outlets that they'll run it with your byline? Because almost every media outlet today needs content. They don't have the journalists that they used to. They don't have the staff that they used to. And so contributed content works really well. And it allows you to demonstrate that thought leadership. And the other place is reviews. So, what's the first thing all of us do when we're looking for a new product or a new service? We go online and we read the reviews. We read the good, we read the bad, and then we make the decision, right? So you can spend some time there. And the third place, and this is the one I'll caveat because I don't know how I feel about this, but there has been the rise of the TikTok news anchor. And that where people, just normal people, are reading the news and telling the news, and they're doing it on TikTok. And it's interesting because they're not journalists and they're not bound by the same ethics as a journalist would be. But that's where younger generations are getting their information. Yeah. So thinking about, is there a way for me to incorporate some of that into the earned media that I'm doing is probably pretty smart to be thinking about.
Yeah, I know certainly our clients that we're doing their legal marketing for, and that we stayed away from TikTok when it first came on because, to be honest, I didn't understand it fully. And for the old guy that I am, I tend to be in our company. Everybody would tell you that I'm the one that's more of the risk taker. I'm the one that wants to see what are the young people doing? Why is this happening? What's good about this? And since so, I would say in the last 6 months, we as a company and our companies and our clients have embraced TikTok, and
That's
we've
great.
taught our clients that I do. Like for example, I do a show called Fire Away once a month for one of my clients, an employment law lawyer, Mark and Stuart Rudner, and we developed this show 7 years ago. So it's just a once a month half-hour show. He has
Okay.
multiple guests, one or two, three guests at the same time. We do this live stream, and we have a production house in the States in New Jersey that actually does a live edit as we go,
Huh.
so we can
Wow.
live stream that. Yeah.
Wow.
So long story short, we started talking about TikTok, and I said, here's what I think you should try doing. I said, this is a place in my mind for lawyers where you can be a person. And because one of the issues I've always found with lawyers in Canada, I don't know the same in the States, is personalizing them. Like, don't be this stuffy, I'm above you guy. That's not, and don't be the
Really
tough
good
guy,
advice. Yeah,
right?
that's really good advice.
Just
Yep.
be you. Let's
Yep.
show that you got a sense of humor. Show that you have
Yep.
sports interest. Whatever it
Yep.
is that you like to talk about. And Stuart was a natural, and he just fell into it so well. Then his staff, they started doing TikToks, and they were doing different topics and stuff that was maybe not even legal related. I said it doesn't have to be about law all the time. So
Right.
just get on
Right.
there and do your 3 minutes. Right, whatever it is, whatever you're interested in, and it's really helped a lot. It's driven traffic, and that's at the end of the day, from on the digital side, all we all want in marketing,
That's right.
and as an influencer. And I am not an influencer, but certainly not nowhere near you and your compatriots. But what are you looking for? Well, you're looking to drive traffic.
Right.
That's the bottom line.
That's exactly right. Yes. That's
Back
right.
to the blogging debate. What was the point of a blog? The blog wasn't, self-gratification, although that's, to me, how it ended up evolving out certainly in the legal market.
Yep.
The legal, it became a place for lawyers to do what they do all the time, is write tons of content that 99.9% of the public wouldn't understand.
Right.
So
Right.
you're not getting business that way, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good advice to have them on TikTok. I love that.
Yeah, I do. I think it's better. Well, Twitter X, what do you want to? I mean, Twitter at its best was a sewer, and
Yes.
now it's I don't think there's a word to describe how low it's gone. I mean, I actually closed my personal accounts. We do maintain company accounts because you have to, but I have no interest in being involved there at all. I can't. I don't like the hatred. I don't like the anger. It's just, and it's so, and I'm not political in social. I try not to be in social media. There's lines that in the sand that I won't accept. But yeah, Twitter is so far right. It's ridiculous. It's just crazy. If you have even anything that looks central opinion, you're bashed. So and I tell my clients the same thing. If you're even the slightest bit political, be mindful that what you say there, one, like we all learn and we teach our clients, once you type it and press send, it's there forever.
It's there forever.
Right. And I've learned that lesson the hard way many times. And
many times.
I have. I mean, it's bad enough what I say in person, never mind what I type.
So where do you spend time then for yourself? LinkedIn?
You know what? I'm an odd guy on LinkedIn. I personally, from a business perspective and profile, I see LinkedIn. I understand LinkedIn. From a personal, hey, I'm interested in following, it doesn't ring my bells at all. I'll do what I need to do to have my profile and have companies' profiles and have my opinions out there. But I spend probably right now, I'm probably spending 70% of my social media time on TikTok and
No
Facebook.
kidding.
And Facebook.
Huh.
Facebook more because where I live now. So Gini, so I don't live in Toronto anymore. So we had moved from Toronto to Kitchener when my youngest was born. And then 4 years ago, 2020 in mid-June, we moved from Kitchener to Canmore, Alberta. So I'm living in the Rocky Mountains, just outside of Banff.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a big,
Very
but
nice.
yeah, but it was a hell of a move because it was the peak of the lockdown. Like we sold
Yeah,
our home
sure.
2 days before the province of Ontario locked everything down. And then so when we moved, we drove across. So there's myself, like how old was so 4 years ago. So Bergen was like 14.
14, yeah.
My Natalie, my partner, and my 95-pound dog I bought a truck back in Kitchener. They knew I was coming here and said, well, I need to have a truck and it's a different lifestyle. I'm not living in the city anymore. So
Sure,
we came
yeah.
across 3/4 of Canada at the height
Wow.
of
Wow.
COVID. Yeah. And so as I tell everybody, I said the hotels were great because they were open to anybody, pets, didn't matter if 5-star hotel or a motel. So they were really good. But as far as it's the drive from Toronto here on the Canadian side is stunning. It's a beautiful drive,
I'm
but
sure. I'm
you couldn't
sure.
do anything. The original
Yeah, you
plan
couldn't
before
go any.
COVID
Yeah,
hit,
yeah.
yeah, was that we would go, we would take 2 weeks to come out here, we would stop, we would do the tourist thingy and all
Sure,
that.
yeah. Couldn't do any of it.
Nope. Nope. It was truck, road, subway. Subway was the only thing that was open. So you couldn't even go to local town
Subway was the only
diners.
thing that was open.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a different lifestyle out here for sure.
Wow.
Yeah. And
That's great.
so you can understand the politics out here. Alberta is known as the Texas of Canada.
Okay.
So like give you an idea.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, and I'm slightly left to center, and
Yes.
so I just Natalie made me promise that we moved here that I would not be involved in politics anymore because I was very active with the
She's
federal
like, please
federal
don't
Liberal
talk
Party.
anyone. Talk to
Yeah,
anyone.
well, she was afraid. Well, hockey. You know how you're from Chicago, so you know
Yeah.
hockey. So I'm a Leaf fan, obviously.
Yep.
And so she says, "Oh, you got to take the Leaf stickers off your truck. You're coming out where the Calgary Flames are and the Edmonton Oilers
Oh.
and all." I said, "I'm
Oh.
not." Well, it turns out there's more freaking Leaf fans that live in Alberta.
That's funny.
Yeah, it is funny. So every time I'm going around somewhere, hey, all right, Leaf fan, yeah, great, great, yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah, it is funny. So we kind of, we're talking about the social media and that. So leading that into content and how to build lead through content to build leads for law firms. What's your thought on that?
I asked the question about where you spend most of your time, and that has evolved too. And we were talking about this pre-show, but when we met, blogging was a really big thing.
Yeah.
And I remember probably, so that was 2012. I would say probably 2017, I met somebody from NPR at Content Marketing World, and he said to me, you should blog or you should podcast because there are hardly any women podcasters. I mean, it was like less than 0.01% at the time were women podcasters. And that's not my natural inclination because I'm a writer. And so it was really challenging for me to do it. I had to hire a production team to just like force me to do it. But it's a great lead generator, and video is king. Video is a great way. If you're spending on time on LinkedIn or on TikTok, that's a great way to do it. But I will tell you, at this moment in time, most of our referrals are coming from LinkedIn. And
Wow.
all I'm doing is repurposing content there that we're already creating. I repurpose it. The content that we create on the business side is for the communicator. So I repurpose it so it's applicable to a business owner. And all of our leads are coming from there. All of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive.
And that's a really great way to think about it from an attorney's perspective as well, because it's the same type of thing. It's demonstrating your thought leadership. It's demonstrating your expertise. It's showing what kind of experience you have. And,
Right.
then people are finding you that way based on what they're looking for. And you've already built credibility because that's where you are.
Yeah, I know that Canadian lawyers, part of our challenge is always, depending on the category of law, there really can be a completely different dynamic as to how you're going to approach. So when you're looking at categories of law like family law, that's the easy one. So family law, you're dealing almost 100% with the average person, like
Sure.
depending on what your demographic is, what your hourly rate is, what you're looking for. But most of them are looking between 29 and 50. That age keeps going up higher because we're living longer and we're going through multiple relationships or multiple marriages. That's still a thing. So it's when we're trying to advise them on how to target that, that's where you get, The LinkedIn isn't necessarily the best vehicle for you to get your message out. Here's where you need to maybe look more at a more real social media, whether it's
Yep.
whether it's
Yep.
Facebook, whether
Yep.
it's
Yep.
Twitter, whether it's TikTok. Those are the places where you want to be, and that's where, like I say, I take family law lawyers that we have that we do that, and we generate a lot of stuff. This particular family law lawyer just isn't comfortable to be on camera, wasn't comfortable even doing the narration. So we ended up turning to AI. And I
Amazing.
pride
That's
myself in
amazing.
our company that I went and when AI hit, I kind of went, what is this stuff? It seems a little weird. And it took me about 3 months before I really caught on to it. And I dove in. I mean, I was like, I drove one of my associates, Rebecca, crazy because I'd send her links. Go look at this. Go look at this. We got to take this on. We got to give this a try. Anyway, we've gotten fairly good at implementing AI. In this particular example, we use TikTok. So you're doing 30 to 45-second
Mm-hmm.
videos.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And ours is all AI generated. We got the client we gave her umpteen different voices to choose from that were AI generated voices. They found the voice they liked, used AI to write the scripts. So, to do 10 videos for TikTok for this client takes maybe 15 minutes,
No kidding.
right? And
And it's
it's all legit.
all generated by AI. So what does
Yep.
she do? She just approves the
She
script?
just approved. Yeah, Rebecca
Okay.
puts it all together. Like Rebecca cleans it all up. It's not, you
Sure. Yeah,
do
yeah,
have
yeah.
to
Of
do
course.
edit. You have to
Yeah.
edit. It's like
Yep.
anything. So
Yep.
if you had a
Yep.
writer, you're still going to edit your
Yep.
writer.
Yep.
So but the advantage is instead of a task like that, if I was writing 10 scripts for a client, even if for 45-second scripts, I'm looking at a week
Easily.
easily. And
Easily.
never mind. And then you got to put together the video content that
Yep.
coincides with the script.
Yep.
And that's one of we use Opus AI for the video side of it. And it takes, for example, when this show is done and it's finished and it's complete, we'll take this show and make sure that we send you the links and we'll put it into Opus AI. And Opus AI will break it out ranked into 35 to 60-second clips. So you can use them on Reels, you can use them on Facebook, you can use them on YouTube Shorts, you can use them on TikTok. And it will format them for each platform. And then it'll rank them and it'll explain why is it
So
ranked.
back up.
Yep.
So you take this podcast.
Yeah.
And you throw the video in or the transcript, the video.
The video.
And then it just does that. Like you prompt it to do. Amazing. I did not know this. I'm going to try this.
It'll be, and I'm going to be
try it.
conservative and say, if this ends up being a 40-minute podcast, which we probably will easily do that, it can give me up to 30 totally different. Everyone will be different spots.
That's amazing.
That will be generated, like I said, into any format, whether it's Reels, whether it's YouTube Shorts, TikTok, Facebook, right?
That's amazing.
And LinkedIn. So you can populate all of your social media. And then I can't remember the name of it. That Rebecca will have to get you. We have another one that will actually take all that content and automatically populate all of your platforms.
Huh.
And you can schedule it. So you're not just whacking it out there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
But which brings us back to,
look at that. I learned something on this. I
well,
hope all the listeners did too. That's awesome.
I should hope so.
That's awesome.
I'm more than a pretty face.
You are more than a pretty face.
So we're there now. What about AI? What are your real thoughts about AI in from a marketing perspective?
It's funny because we've been using that. We have one client who won't do video, just refuses. So we've been using their podcast that's just audio and having AI break it into blog posts for them. And it works pretty well. I mean, it's not, to your point, it needs to be edited. It's something that probably an intern could write.
Right.
But it used to take us weeks to do that. We have one client who does an hour-long video conversation every week about family governance. It's tough. And it used to take us a month to do one because you have to, we would have it transcribed, but then you have to listen to it and you have to read the transcription and then you have to, write the blog post, and it would easily take a month. And now we just pop it into ChatGPT and it does the thing and you know, within 3 minutes, we have 4 blog posts that we can spend some time with, you know, adding expertise and authority and all those pieces into it, adding the soul, I like to say. But we're not doing it from a video perspective. That's a really good idea.
Well, Jeannie, if I'm remiss to do it, but I would say give you advice. I would give you a suggestion that we've learned pretty quickly. I just did a proposal actually for an American who wanted to do a podcast. But he said, I've done audio. I just want to do audio. I said, well, why are you just doing audio? Well, it's more expensive. I won't charge you a penny more to do this as video. So now you have 2 platforms or multiple. So you aside from just your audio podcast, whatever podcast players you're broadcasting out to, now you have video content that can be put a million other places that audio just nobody's going to sit and listen to audio clip on TikTok.
Right. Yeah.
And I said, there's no additional cost to it. That's because there's no additional work. It's the only difference is however you're bringing your guest in, just change it to bring them in on Zoom.
Yeah.
No big deal. It's not that tough.
Yeah.
So we recommend it all the time. Actually, I don't think we've ever done any more, not in the last couple of years, a straight audio for anybody.
Yeah. We just have this one client who they just won't do it. But I agree with you. In general, I agree with you. But yeah, they just won't. So.
Yeah, because the more tools you get out of it, and the more it's more content. You know, even though we're talking video and audio content, it's still back to 2012. The conversation was about blog content. Content.
Yep.
And as I say, I remember Danny. Danny and I would kind of butt heads on that one, and I said, Danny, I won't use the expression, but there's an unsavory expression about a circle and men doing something. And I said, that's what it is. It's all you're doing because everybody that comments is a buddy. It's not a client. But where are you prospecting with that blog post and those comments?
That's a very good point. I mean, he's become a very good friend, but because of that, but yeah, we don't do business together. Yeah.
What's the next 5 years look like in digital marketing? It doesn't have to be legal, just in general. What's the next 5 years?
Well, I do think AI is going to take over more. Everybody's afraid that it's going to take their jobs, and I don't think it's going to take our jobs. I think it's going to make us more efficient. It's already made us more efficient, and I think we're going to see bigger gains from that perspective. I think anybody that does marketing for a living, their job is going to change pretty drastically. So it will be, instead of you being the creator, you'll be the editor and the prompt engineer and the making sure that you're getting the right kinds of content versus being the one that's creating it. And I always say, like, anytime anybody tells me they're scared about that, I always say, but it's so much easier to start with something on the screen than to start with a blank page. And then they kind of go, oh yeah, that's true. So it's not going to take away our creativity. It's not going to take away our soul. We still have to do those things. But I mean, the things that they're doing with AI in other industries like medical and even in law it demonstrates that this is going to explode on us pretty quickly.
Cool. So my last comments are really simple, Gini. I'm going to steal from someone that actually turned the page for me on understanding how streaming and YouTube could actually be valuable. And it's Sean Evans, who I think is probably the most brilliant interviewer I've seen in the last 20 years. And the show Hot Ones, if you've ever watched it, if you haven't. You need to watch it. It's the one where he interviews people while they're eating 10 hot wings. They get progressively.
Oh yeah, I've heard about this, but I haven't
it's
seen
amazing.
Okay.
I mean, the guests he gets, this is A-listers. This is not. It started off they were just getting rappers and stuff. Now, people are asking, A-listers are asking to be on this show. But he ends his show, and I kind of like it because I'm gonna steal a little spin on it. We don't have the multiple cameras, but Gini, you survived speaking to your favorite Canadian. Once every 22 years, it seems. We won't make it 22 years next time, but you got one camera in front of you. Let's roll out the red carpet for Gini Dietrich. Tell everybody what you're up to, what's coming up for you.
Oh my gosh. Well, this is the 10th anniversary. This year is the 10th anniversary of Spin Sucks the book. So we are doing, every month we're doing something new to celebrate. So we have a lot of fun things coming up. We're relaunching the peso model and its graphic along with its framework to be. So it's gone from really tactical to more strategic. So we're doing that. I'm hopefully going to get a second edition of the book out this year. And we're doing some fun things like playing cards and, just like fun things that take you back to being able to sit with your colleagues and brainstorm in a room versus trying to do things in a silo.
That's awesome, Gini. I got to tell you, this has been a real treat for me. It's been too long. Because it just popped in my head. Do you remember at the Royal York, I gave you a swag bag?
Yeah.
Do you remember that at all?
Yeah.
Do you still have the cup?
I do. I should have brought it out.
That's wild. I remember
I
it
do.
was such a big deal for me because
Yeah.
you were the only one that would accept the swag bag from me. Nobody else. Gary V did too.
Did he really?
Yeah, but that was it. It was like, oh wow, okay, like they've got my swag. That's cool. It was
That's
well
awesome.
worth coming.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Besides the fact that the last little story I'll share with you because it's kind of amusing. I don't mean to. So I stayed at the Royal York, obviously, because it was just I wasn't going to go back and forth.
Sure.
And the following day when I was checking out, I'd gone down to grab a bite to eat. I had all my stuff packed up and in the corner. I come back up, I go to get my stuff, and the box that had the cups in it was gone. So I'm going up and down. So I see the maid in her cart. And so I get up to the cart and she's in a room. And just as an aside, I don't really remember this about me, but my background was private investigation. I was a private investigator for 30 years. So I just happened to, my eyes, I noticed this box protruding out underneath a bunch of towels. Sure enough, it was my box of those ceramic mugs, those
Are you
branded
serious?
mugs. Yeah. Yeah.
Did she? I have
So I
many
took
questions.
the mugs. She came out, and as I'm taking the mugs off her cart, and she's like all upset at me, and I said, she says, "Well, you left. That's not your." I said, "No, I hadn't checked out yet." And I said, "I had just come back from breakfast to get my stuff to go down in my car." And she was, horribly embarrassed, and
So she
all
thought
that.
you had left, and you got
Yeah.
it.
Yep.
Oh
That's crazy.
my! She was trying
I'm
to take
sure.
him home.
Listen,
Trying to take
you've
him
been
home
on
to
the
her
road
family.
enough.
Yeah.
You've been on the road enough. I'm sure there's a ton of stories that you could
Yes.
share.
Yes.
Gini, thanks so much. I know your time is valuable, and to spare some time for us and for my audience, that's amazing.
Oh my gosh,
And
it's
we
been absolutely my pleasure. And I
really
learned
appreciate
something,
it.
so I'm going to try this.
Well, there you go. Good
So
stuff.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's not wait 22 years, eh?
Yeah, let's not wait that long.
For sure. You still look the same, though.
Thank you. I think so too.
You do. Thanks again, Gini. Thanks, everybody. Please join us next month for our show. We'll be posting our guest probably in the next 2 weeks on social media for those of you that follow us. Have a great day.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the LegalTube podcast. Ready to take your legal marketing to the next level? Our show delivers expert insights and practical advice to help you succeed in today's competitive legal landscape. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, this podcast is for you. For more information, check out LegalTube.ca. And if you have any questions, get in touch with us. Thanks for listening.